All right, folks, a very busy week that was just had, and we had the Black Business Olympics. And of course, there were a lot of other things that were going on as well. And of course, yours truly had to go and finally get a beard cut because I was tired of looking McGruff and like a Santa Claus and all of that. So I want to give a big shout out to Choice Cuts and the great job that they did and all of that. So definitely appreciate Mr. Boyd and had some great conversation about sports, politics, life, and just things in general, as always happens when you go over there and visit your barber. So that is always some amazing things that happen when you get involved in those conversations and things along those lines. So that is some of the things that are happening in this part of the world, and we might be having some guests coming by, including a musician. So we're going to see when they pop in and what kind of conversations we can have about what they're doing and things along that line. In the meantime, there's all kinds of news that is happening in the world, as always. One of them is a step by step guide to reinvention. That's right. That's one of the articles that is being featured on LinkedIn and all of that. So there was an article by Laura Intis, who is an editor over there at LinkedIn, and they were saying that within this article that when this particular person arrived in New York City, not the person that wrote the article, but the person that was being featured, that being Andrew Overcash, they had a dream, make it on Broadway for the next decade, and they pursued that dream wholeheartedly, working in theater as an actor and a songwriter. But as he approached 30, he decided it was time for a change. Fast forward 3 years, and Overcash is a front end engineer at Spotify. It was a major, fulfilling reinvention that made him realize that loving something doesn't necessarily mean it's your life path, when there are so many other paths that can be explored. And I do know that sometimes folks just have to change those paths and do things along those lines. So definitely, sometimes the things might even be related on that and things along those lines. And if I can add to that conversation, Jesse Hemphill was saying that Drew Overcash, when he was talking on music and coding, there's definitely a similar creative strand, and I would agree with that. There's definitely those similar strands within all of those things, and it definitely doesn't seem like it's too far off the field from going into coding to going into music, since there's definitely some things that are related in that regard. Speaking of things being related, earlier on yesterday was part of a very moving memorial for a friend of Bessie Minks, and that was a gentleman by the name of Christopher, who was there very much involved in the music and in definitely in the entertainment field and throughout the country. Sounds like he was definitely have some roots in Chicago, had some roots in California, and roots in other parts of the United States as well, and definitely seemed like a very warm and loving spirit. Glad to be able to participate as a member of a Funky Eye Puppets in the memorial that was part of that on yesterday. So it was very moving and all of that. Of course, there might have been some glitches, but we just kind of rolled with the punches and even had the glitches work as part of what was happening. So definitely it was very moving, and I'm sure a lot of people enjoyed what they heard and what they learned about this amazing individual who seemed to be very much of a networker and a connector and a person that a lot of folks probably are definitely missing, and a lot of people wish that they had known during the time that he was here on planet Earth. But definitely it was very interesting to hear a lot about this amazing individual. And of course, we're going to try to honor him in different ways by making sure that the legacies that he was part of continue and continue to go on. That is something that we can do when we are here on this planet, if people have passed on. I know that I think about that with so many of the greats that have left this planet over the last several years, including, of course, more recently, Betty White, Andre Leon Talley, and, of course, the illustrious talent of both film and, I believe, some stage as well, Sidney Poitier. So definitely some truly amazing folks that we will try to honor on a regular basis by living, by one, remembering their legacy, but two, also trying to pursue things that are going to honor them in ways that are very much traditional and very much part of keeping the legacy alive. Because I know that even here in Durham, oftentimes think about some of the greats that have gone on and how we try to honor them on a regular basis. Even though Chuck Davis may not be here anymore, or even Phil Freelon or some of the others that were doing some amazing work, we do know that their legacy is remembered, and also that we try to live up to that legacy and do other great work that they would be proud of as well. So that's the best way that I can phrase it, is that we will try to do that. And I'm sure that they will be inspiring many from afar, because I do believe in the ancestral connections and all of that. But coming back to Mr. Cashman, one of the things that was featured in this article was how to evaluate coding programs, when to focus on building a network versus learning skills, what you might not expect about the similarities between writing code and writing music, and how to find the funds to invest in yourself without going into debt or going broke. So definitely I might have to go back into reading more about some of these great suggestions that were given and learning more about how we can definitely pursue these things and some things that might be learned from a life and all of that. As a matter of fact, Drew Overcash even had some things to say on LinkedIn as well. He said, I had such a blast talking with Jesse Hemphill and Sarah Storm. If you want to hear about my journey from theater to software engineering, you can definitely check out the Hello Monday episodes that they do on a regular basis. And he said, if you had told me at 21 where I would be today, I would have said you were crazy. This journey has been a roller coaster, but I wouldn't have changed a thing. Each experience, each success, each failure, and each and every person has helped me to grow into who I am today. And I am so grateful for all of it. If there is one thing I would take away from this journey so far, it is that we can do anything. We are raised with the notion that we can only be good at one thing. We can only have one career. We can only work in one field for our entire lives. And only if we do that will we be successful. This is just not true. There are many paths, and we need to rewrite the narrative or rewrite that narrative. Chase the things that bring you joy, pursue the things that add value to your life, protect your passions and your dreams, which evoke with you as you grow. It may not lead you where you thought it would, but if you don't take a chance on it, you'll never know what could be. And I can definitely agree with that. So definitely you have to kind of like pursue those dreams and hope that those dreams will lead you to where you want to go in your life and things along those lines. You know, they're saying that we're nearing the COVID's endemic phase and all of that. Let's see what this means in our sense of what the World Health Organization is saying. The World Health Organization offered plausible hope for an end to the pandemic, saying that vaccinations and natural immunity through infection meant stabilization and normalization. The spread of the Omicron variant has failed to disrupt society to the extent that prior COVID-19 variants did, offering hope that subsequent waves definitely wouldn't require lockdowns or similar measures. Both the WHO and Dr. Anthony Fauci, President Joe Biden's top COVID advisor, encouraged continued vigilance, including increased levels of vaccination to suppress transmission and new variants. Self-reports of COVID jumped to more than a quarter to 57 million from December 29th through January 10th, from December 1st to December 13th, according to a Census Bureau survey. So that is some of the things that are going on in that regards. And real world data shows that booster doses are standing up to Omicron, with the CDC reporting that last week that unvaccinated people are 5 times more likely to catch the rapid spreading variant than those who are boosted. And that was according to Ars Technica. And I do know that there was a big protest, I believe, up in DC on yesterday. And if anybody was up there and want to tell us their views of what that protest was about and how that protest went, we would love to hear it, because we do love hearing about various points and all of that. So always some amazing things happening in that regards. So that's some of the things that are happening in there. And of course, we're always interested in other stories that folks may have as well. And we've got different folks watching the show, and I'm glad to see that folks are watching from different places, including quite a few right here on international broadcast and all of that. So glad that folks are checking out what we're talking about and kind of follow out the various stories, and hopefully many more will be engaged in our conversations. If you want to come on and you want to share your story, we are always glad to have people share their stories with us and what some of the things are that they've got going on as well. As a matter of fact, I'm going to make it very much available for folks to come into what we like to call the green room, or at least that's what my friend Brian calls it, and all of that. So we're going to make that available. And if folks want to pop in and join in the conversation, we would love to have you come in and share what you've got going on in your world and with what's happening in your life and all of that. So if folks would just kind of like follow along and kind of like follow this particular link, you can clearly come into the green room and share your conversations about things that you may be interested in talking about as well. Always glad to have amazing conversations and having people come in and sharing what they've got on their minds with us on a regular basis. So that is something that we are always glad to have happening and all of that. So definitely always looking for new guests and looking for folks that want to talk about various things, such as I love the creatives, I love the entrepreneurs, I love folks that are in that activist space. And of course, there are things along those lines. And of course, if you're involved in the health space and all things like that, we always love having conversations and might even have you come in on this particular day because we do love having conversations with people. And of course, we love having them from folks around the globe. So if you're interested and you're watching the show, we would love to hear from you at this particular time and all of that. You know, one of the things that people are asking is why are we still writing resumes? And that is another article that people may be interested in. And maybe you've got a thought. I know it's been a minute since I've written a resume and I actually need to update my resume, but I would love to hear other people's thoughts around resumes. So while the pandemic has dramatically altered the way we think about work, one key component has remained staunchly unchanged. That is the humble resume. Traditionally, single page distillations or kind of our work histories and everything and skills are still the standard to apply for a job and get noticed. That, according to the New York Times, even as hiring managers embrace more advanced technology. That's because the robots and the humans reading your resume both benefit from its single format. But experts note that traditional resumes is in the process of being disrupted. I wonder how they're going to disrupt the traditional resume. If you've done a resume recently and you can tell us how resumes are being done, we would love to hear that as well. I do know that some folks are getting very frustrated by technology. Yours truly was getting frustrated to some degree by technology this weekend because I was trying to help a friend of mine move a document from one of those cloud services to another service, and it was definitely kind of a headache. And I don't think that we've ever quite solved the problem. But if y'all know how to move things from the OneDrive or some of those things into the regular means, please let me know so I can let them know because it was a very frustrating effort on this particular weekend. Even looking online, I know they say you can Google everything and the answers are there, but even the Google answers were just as frustrating. So that's just something that I learned over the weekend. So if y'all have got any solutions to that problem, please let me know. And speaking of solutions, don't forget that this weekend, that's right, this Wednesday, I said this weekend, but I mean this Wednesday, we will be returning back to trivia. And I know that I got some folks that are looking for their Starbucks cards because I do have some that are out in the route and everything. But we will be starting back the trivia. I'm going to give you some more trivia results at the online dinner party. So I think that I'm going to get somebody from the international field. I'm not sure which field yet, whether they're going to be a politician, a criminal, an entertainer, or what. But I'm going to get at least one international and maybe two national figures as well. Still trying to decide who those are going to be and what fields they're going to be in, but they will definitely be historical. And also, don't forget that coming up this week, we are still considering our conversation around the world's worst president. And we've had some great dialogue, some great fiery conversations, and all of that. Almost as fiery as this morning when Shaquille Lattimore rejoined us on the World edition and all of that. And we were talking around politics and around news items and things along those lines. But it was great to see Shaquille back in from Australia after having been away from us for a while. It was glad to see him in and still having a lot of fiery conversations that he wanted to bring up as well. So always great to see these conversations taking place right here on the network and all of that. So very much enjoyable and hope other folks enjoyed it as well. But I definitely was enjoying our conversation. By the way, it looks like a Wharton student has been schooled by Twitter. A Wharton professor's question to undergraduates about how much the average American worker makes each year led to some eye-opening responses and subsequent internet outrage. Legal studies and business ethics teacher Nina Strominger tweeted that a quarter of the students guessed over six figures and one even said $800,000. I don't know what kind of world these students are living in because I do not think that that is the average whatsoever. And I really must figure out where these students are coming from and how they're even guessing those kind of figures whatsoever. Showmaker clarified she doesn't think that this bias is unique to her students since people are notoriously bad at income estimates. And that is true. There are probably some people that think that I'm making close to 100,000 and things of that nature. And I can guarantee you it is nowhere near that. As a matter of fact, it's a long way away. Some tweets criticized the students' privilege and the school for not doing more to teach about everyday Americans' economic realities. That's something that we do here on this network on a regular basis. And Nick actually times often brings this up as to how many people cannot even afford a basic amount of money for basic survival on a regular basis. The average annual wage was 53,383 in the United States in 2021, according to the Social Security Administration. And I'm not even thinking that I'm anywhere near that. Some of my colleagues may be, but I think that I'm a little bit away from that and need to do something about that. But just a quick set aside and all of that. But definitely, it's a lot of folks, and I know it's been a conversation here on this network, is around financial in education and how we can do that in terms of all of that. And he is not backstage and everything along those lines. So I'm going to have to see what's happening in that regards. And I also see that Steve is calling me as well. I think that he's on the other link. So I'm going to go over there and tell that person this as well. Can we improve the way we educate our children in school? Can we improve the way we educate our children at home about work? Can it be proven that most young people, no matter their background or opposition in life, would get this answer wrong? And that is something that we talk about on this show on a regular basis. So that is something that we've got to deal with and deal with on a regular sense in that sense. And one of the things that this particular person was saying is that, yes, we can definitely use, and this person is Jean Statford, who is a leadership advisor and all of that. And they were definitely saying that, yes, we need to do a much better job. We can use spaces like these to improve lives and enhance knowledge. Then we could have done something to decrease ignorance in the future. This lack of knowledge is no one's fault. This is an opportunity for all of us to collectively share news we can use to improve. When my children were small, this person was saying they had a monthly meeting called the Murphy Money Meeting, where we discuss anything related to money, including checking accounts, credit cards, mortgages, salaries, and saving accounts. 10 years later, we still rely on the structure of the meeting to cover things that seem complicated. This sounds like a great idea. I think more families need to do this. And that's just my personal opinion. Value is complicated by leaders. Leaders can be found at work and at home. When you lead in these spaces, consider that every step you take matters. Start small, increase knowledge, and decrease ignorance. That is a great thing that this particular person is saying in that regard. We're going to continue with some more of this discussion, but in the meantime, I'm going to bring up a couple of ads and also have a little bit of a discussion around some other things that are going on as well. Still trying to get in touch with my musical person and have the conversation with them as well. So that's some of the things that we're trying to do on a regular basis and that we're trying to have here so that y'all can learn more and more about the things that are happening in life in that regards. Don't forget, we have some great shows that happen here on a regular basis. One of them, of course, is the Barbara H. Smith Show. And of course, sometimes she will have people repping the brand because she's also a great motivational speaker and all of that. So we're going to bring up a little bit of information about Barbara and some of the other folks as well. And then we'll be back, hopefully, with our musician guest.
Engage, inspire, empower. That's what I help you do as a celebrity, speaker, trainer, and coach. Hi, I'm Barbara H. Smith, known as the Masterful Presenter. I am the one that can help you dig deep inside your passions and deep inside your life to get you to the place you always dreamed.
I have the pleasure of hearing Miss Barbara Holmes Smith speak today, and just from her speaking to me today, I have realized that I need to have personalize my alter ego and be able to put myself out there a lot more.
I help through speaking techniques, teaching you how to use your words and your body language to inspire people to come up higher.
Today's presentation with Ms. Barbara was just outstanding. She has really helped me with her personality, with her being so genuine and passionate about what she believes in and helping to coach, train. Her sense of humor, her energy is just incredible.
How do I do that? By coaching and speaking and training. I help you with whatever it is that you want to do next. What is your next? Are you ready to take your life, your career to the next level? I can get you there. Contact me at www.barbarahsmith.com.
I love to introduce somebody really awesome. He is a master of training other speaker, and he is a great speaker because I saw him speaking, and he hardcore. He looks like athlete. He looks like a fighter. But when he starts speaking, he speaks with a real warm heart and really touch people's heart and really fascinate people.
Here's to the crazy ones, the misfits, the rebels, the troublemakers, the round pegs and square holes. They're not fond of rules and they have no respect for the status quo. You can quote them or disagree with them, glorify or vilify them, but the one thing you cannot do is ignore them. Because they change things, they push the human race forward. And while some may see them as the crazy ones, we see genius. Because the people who are crazy enough to think that they can change the world are the ones that do.
Reuben West communicates by connecting with his audience when he presents and when he's sharing a key message. Being able to connect and communicate your instructions clearly is a masterful skill.
The ultimate professional. Reuben is a guy that not only teaches a message, but also demonstrates the message. He's helped me to craft my art, and I'm sure he'll help you to craft yours.
Very accomplished international speaker, being able to just connect to any audience, no matter where they come from or what kind of people they are. He helps you and serves you in every kind of way to elevate you as a speaker, and I highly recommend him.
He is a people's heart connecting scientist with a using instrument of your voice and your appearance and your heart, touching people's heart.
His communication is unmatched. I'm Australian, he's American, and it really makes no difference as to our culture and where we have come from, because his message, the way he communicates it, is from humanity.
Find a way to take the next step. Thank you.
You are watching The View from Hampton U, exploring Hampton University's rich history, the past, present, and promising future.
Welcome to Hampton University and The View from Hampton U. Today we're going to examine a movement that is said to be taking the nation by storm. The Genius is Common movement has emboldened young people throughout the nation, and that has also happened here at Hampton University. Let's take a look at what some of our students have to say about being a genius.
Hi, my name is Gavin Harden, and my genius is to be able to give off positive vibes and spread a smile. Genius is common.
My name is Brianna Lomax, and my genius is artistic expression through writing and showing compassion to everyone I meet. Genius is common.
My name is Atia Strange, and my genius is the power of expression. Art is universal. I sing, I draw, I film, I photograph. Genius is common.
My name is Maya Harris, and my genius consists of all the gifts that God has given to me. I am a giver, I am passionate about bringing ideas to life, and I have mastered the concept of finding the good in everything. Genius is common.
My name is Diamond Sidney. My genius is acknowledging the beauty in my own mistakes while challenging others to do the same in order to cultivate and grow. Genius is common.
My name is Almajid Edwards. A lot of people think genius is about being talented or being smart. It's not true. Genius is about influence. Whether it's an equation, whether you're reading or writing, research, harmonies, what have you, genius is about the opportunity, the moment of impact where you can influence another person and uplift them. My genius is poetry. Genius is common.
Hampton University has a long-standing history of supporting geniuses and the movements that they create. For example, General Chapman Armstrong established this great institution in 1868. And did you know that Booker T. Washington was also an alum of Hampton University? I could go on and on about the geniuses who've come through these doors and have exited to go out into the world to make a great difference. That's what's important to us. That's what's important about the Genius is Common movement. What is your genius? You should take the time to think about that today. So thank you for watching The View from Hampton U. And remember, genius is truly common.
All right, we'll continue the conversation about economics and things along those lines at a later time and everything, because we've got our guests, which I've been waiting for, and everything along those lines. And of course, it's always great having amazing people to join us. Glad that Miss Sugar Cheney was able to put me in touch with some of the people that she is involved with. And of course, we love talking to musicians from around the world and performers and seeing how they are doing, particularly in these hard times and all of that, because we do know that artists and musicians are facing some very difficult times. But I'm glad that we've got Mr. Casanova with us and interested in learning more about what he's got going on. And who knows, one of my other co-host may join us as well. I did have a phone call from Mr. Rao, and we're going to see if he pops in or not as well. And of course, there's no telling what other guests may decide to show up and have their comments also, because we always love having amazing conversations and having folks share their wisdom and what they've got going on in that regards. Like I said, we're going to bring in Marcel. I see he spells the name correctly with the C and all of that. So we're going to bring him in and see how he's doing and all of that. So how are you doing, Marcel? How is life treating you on this particular day? Sorry, we were having some kind of difficulties getting you on in here, but I'm glad that Miss Cheney put me in touch with you, and I know that you're doing some amazing things in the art world. And of course, we do love our creatives here on the radio show with Mark Lee. Hope that your family is doing well. Hope that even though we've all been facing this 2 year of a dilemma of a pandemic, which has definitely impacted a lot of my artistic friends, even though more and more of them are starting to get out and do performances and things along those lines. So I guess that's the first question is, how are you doing? Where are you coming in from us at? And just how is life treating you in general?
I'm doing pretty good, actually. I'm coming in from Houston, Texas, and life is treating me pretty well. It's just maintaining along with everyone else and traveling through and making my way through the pandemic, as you know, as difficult as it is for everyone else.
Oh yeah, no doubt. It's very much difficult for everybody else. How has it been in terms of performances? Actually, I just did a event this past. I actually did two events, but one of them was actually based in Houston. A gentleman by the name of Alan Thornton was doing an MLK celebration, not this past weekend, but the weekend before, and I was part of that as one of the virtual engineers and all of that. And it was definitely an amazing event. And he's right there, based in Houston also, and he actually pivoted because originally he was going to do it all as a live event, but then he wound up making it part live with some of the people there in Houston and some of the people actually watching it virtually because he wanted to make it as safe as possible, and I think y'all might have had an uptick. So for that reason, he was saying that he wanted to have the best of both worlds. And we do know that a lot of people are doing hybrid events, because I know that even as part of a film festival that I'm part of, I'm actually part of a couple of film festivals. One of them I think is going to go strictly in person, but that's a smaller film festival. And then the other one will be doing that variation where you're watching online. It'll be an online festival. I don't think they're doing any hybrid or in-person events whatsoever. So it's just interesting how people are navigating these still troubled waters that we are in and everything. So have you been doing a lot of your recording from your home, or have you been doing it out and about? And what kind of clubs are you attending? And how is that club engagement coming for you?
Well, I do pretty much all of my recording at home. I have an in-home studio. I'm a audio engineer, so I pretty much do all of my own recording. Even before the pandemic started, over the years, I've always done all of my own recording. As far as events, going out doing those events, it's sparse. It's here and there. I try to gauge on where I'm going to go, what the crowd situation is like, and I get into it, but not as much as before the pandemic was. Before then, you would take every show that would come up, and now you kind of wait and see, okay, how's my family gonna feel about it? How do I feel about it? How engaging can you be with the crowd? How much can you let the crowd engage with you? You just have to take in all of that into consideration.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. No, that's no problem. That makes a lot of sense. Tell us a little bit about your musical journey and how it began. Were you always one that was very much into that performance space? Were you engaged a lot in the church space, or was it something that even at a young age you knew you were going to be a performer, or was it something that you developed later in life?
It's actually something that I developed later in life. I actually had no intentions on being a actual recording artist because it's in my family. I have a brother that's first of all, my entire family sings, and I'm not saying just me and my brother. No, my mom, dad, brothers and sisters, the majority of my cousins, aunts and uncles, everybody. I come from a singing family. So that's where it initially came from. And with me, I thought I was going to be a basketball player. I thought I was going to the NBA, and all of that. So my brother was into the music, and I told him, I was like, well, you handle the music and I'll handle the sports stuff.
Okay.
So I didn't have any intentions on becoming a musician, although at the age of 14 and 15, I was writing songs, and I would write songs along with him. And it just kind of grew from there. And he was the first person to put me into the studio. And by him, I mean, his name is Billy Cook. I don't know if you've heard of Billy Cook before, but he's a major artist. He's anybody you can name. He's done music with them, from the rap world to the R&B world. So, and he's a singer. He's singing the national anthem at the Rockets game and been on tour with Silk and the Ozzy Brothers, just the whole thing, So I kind of came in under his wing, along with what I call my brothers. We're not blood related, but my brother, Kizzo.
Okay.
We do a lot of music together, and I started off writing songs with my brother Billy, and that's how I kind of got into it. And I went off to college, and the college life is what pushed me into the music world.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, and I know one of the other things you talk about is kind of like creating this new voice of the South. And I know part of your background is that you were also born in Atlanta while you were raised there in Houston and everything. And it definitely, I know that you have been writing for a while now and all of that. But I was just wondering, I'm a big fan of Southern soul, which is a form of blues music that is also very Southern rooted and all of that. But I was just wondering if you could just share with our international audience what you mean by being the new voice of the South, and whether you incorporate any of that Southern soul or even some of that, because I know the South also has its own variation of hip hop as well. There's that Atlanta
Right.
style that is much different from, say, the New York style or the California style. So I was wondering, do you incorporate these other Southern forms of music within your own music?
I do actually, and because I hear you when you say Atlanta. I'm actually from Atlanta, Texas.
Okay.
So it's a difference, that's Texas. Atlanta, Georgia, they have their own style, but in Texas we have our own style.
Right.
And but all of me, it comes from a place of down home,
Mhm.
country,
Mhm.
backwoods. From
Mhm.
there to the city of Houston,
Right.
I'm a country boy.
Okay.
And in the country, what we listen to, we listen to blues, we
Right.
listen to a lot of R&B, and you
Mhm.
listen to gospel music, you listen to country music, you listen to hip hop, and you take all of that and you mix it up in a pot, and you get a gumbo of Marcel Casanova.
Okay.
And then that's the southern soul, that I bring to the table. That's when I say new voice of the South, that's what I'm referring to. It's a combination of you just mixing all of that up and grinding it up, and then when you hear me, this what you get out of it.
Yeah, because you mentioned some of those Southern soul sounds, and I know that there's some artists that I am friends of and everything that come out of the blues realm that even came out of Texas. I don't know if you're familiar with the blues artist Hubert Sumlin, but I believe that he's one of those Texas artists. And of course, there's some of those that are New Orleans style as well, because I definitely grew up myself listening to music in the 80s that was definitely Texas rooted. And definitely Hubert Sumlin was a Texas legend, and there were some other Texas legends as well. So I was wondering whether it was Hubert or whether it was, I believe Nelly Tiger Travis might also be out of Texas as well. But I was just wondering who are some of the old school musicians that might have influenced you. Actually, she's out of the Mississippi Delta, and I'm looking at some of her history and everything. But who are some of those old school music that influenced you? But she has played a lot in Texas, by the way. And I know Theotis Ely has also. So who are some of those folks that were your influences in any style of music, whether it was jazz, whether it was blues, whether it was country, whether it was hip hop, but who were some of those people that really influenced you?
My biggest influence in it is actually my brother Billy Cook. I mean, is and most people say, well, how is that? I mean, because he's my brother. Like everything that I learned musically, I would attest. I would give that to him because I picked it up from him. My dad listened to country music growing up. We listened to Randy Travis,
Mhm.
Clint Black, George Strait. We listened to all of this, and then the gospel music, all of the different gospel artists. That's what it's a conglomerate, and I can't pinpoint and say one person. I just kind of piggybacked or picked up from one person. You have artists like Big Cynthia, rest in peace. These are type of artists that I learned from just seeing what they're doing and just kind of embracing what they bring to the table and as a collective, and not just pinpointing and saying, okay, I'm going to sound like this artist, I'm going to sound like that artist. I kind of just listen to everything, and when I go into the studio, I just let whatever is in me come out. I let that come out. I don't try to sound like anyone else. I just try to put my own flavor on it.
No, that makes a lot of sense. And I know one of the other things that's very popular these days, and it's been popular for decades now, is line dancing. I've actually got some friends that are very much involved in line dancing, and it looks like you had a hit that did pretty well on that line dancing kind of flavor and everything. So I was just wondering if you could share us a little bit about this song that was called "Rock with Me." And it definitely looks like it even got a nominated for a Blues Award. So I'm already impressed by that and everything. So I would love to hear a little bit more about this song that's entitled "Rock with Me."
Yeah, I mean the title kind of says it all. It's just you want people to get into the groove where they feel good about themselves, and they get on the dance floor and they just go out there and they just have fun and embrace whoever they're there with. If even if they're there alone, if you're at home, you just it's just rocking with you, and it just makes you feel good. It's feel good music.
Yeah, I like that feel good music for sure and everything. Now, this label that you're part of, the Feel Good Music Group label, is that your own label? Is that a label that you're doing with your brother, or how is that label coming about? I love the title of the label, and I think that more folks need to be feeling good, even though we're going through some hard times now with the pandemic. But tell me a little bit about the Feel Good Music Group label.
Feel Good Music Group. That is my record label that I started, and it's been in existence since the early 2000s.
Okay.
And it's just one of those things to where I felt like I wanted to make music that make people feel good. I didn't want it to have a timestamp on the music. If I made the song 20 years ago, or if I make it 20 years from now, I want the music to be timeless, and I want it to just make people feel good. You know, I wanted to just, bring some type of emotion to it. Whatever type of song it is that you listen to from me, I want you to get into it, and I want you to make you feel some type of way, whether it be good or it brings up a old memory and you reminiscing. I just want you to get into it, and I just want to invoke some feelings in you.
Now, that makes a lot of sense. You definitely want to invoke those feelings, get people feeling really good about what they've got going on and all of that. I know that I've had conversations with a lot of musicians and a lot of musicians in different genres and all of that. And so actually, that's one of the questions I was going to ask about genres. But before I get to that, one of the things that they talk about is this idea that music can actually be very much of a unifying flavor. You don't really care what a person's religion is, their genders, their orientations, or a number of other things. When you're listening to really good music, it's all about how that music can make us all one world, one people, and all of that. So I'm just wondering your thoughts about the healing power of music.
Music is very healing because some people are at their lowest points, and what some people don't realize about music is, depending on what you say in the music and how you channel it, how you deliver that message in that music, you may be the person, or your song may be the song that person needed to hear in that very moment to lift their spirits and bring them out of whatever they're going through. And then it may bring them to another level. And we don't know as artists how much influence that we have on people, because music, just listen to drums.
Right.
You can hear drums. I don't care where you are. If you hear some drums, you hear a nice drum pattern, you'll start grooving to it.
Yeah.
And if you're in a bad mood, that's going to lift you up. So the music, that's what it's supposed to do. It's magic. Music is magical. You know, it's been here for thousands of years, and that's what it's been used for. Whether it's people going into battle, they listen to music.
Right.
And I'm not talking about going into the wars and things that are going on now, but back in a long time ago when they had battles and people actually going into battles, they would have those drums going.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you would have the trumpets going.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you have those different instruments to get people riled up, to get them excited, you know, to get them ready for war. So it's the same thing when we create music. We may not be necessarily creating music to get people to prepare people to be ready for war, but we're preparing them to be ready for life, ready for love, you know, ready for whatever that next experience is in their life.
No, I agree with that. One of the things that you just mentioned is how it can also be used as a cause agent, I guess is a better way of putting it. But I'm a big fan of music also being used to deal with issues, to talk about issues and all of that. So I was wondering your thoughts about that, because I'm actually a fan of what I call artist activists, people that use their music or use their platform in order to talk about issues, whether that's Black Lives Matter, whether that's things around the drug culture or other things, or even things around our agriculture and farming. So I was just wondering your thoughts about using music as a way to deal with some of the troubles of the world.
Sometimes that's the only way that people will hear you. Not the only way that they will listen to you, but that's the only way that people will hear you.
Right.
So for example, you take an artist like Curtis Mayfield,
mm-hmm.
you know, and listen to his music and all of the energy in that music and what it spoke to the people.
Right.
So we have to be able as artists to make music that speaks to the people. Sometimes people, they may not hear they don't listen to everything that's going on until after the fact. They listen to that music and they listen to it over and over again, and then they finally hear it and they understand what's being said in that music, you know, and it may be reaching out to them and telling them, hey, this situation may need a little bit more attention, although you weren't paying attention to that situation. And it crosses over from the urban area to the pop area, and the music is being used differently to channel those different emotions, like I said earlier. But that's the purpose of music, you know.
Right.
It has to bring that emotion and spirit out of it.
Yeah, you definitely got to do that. And there's no doubt about that. You got to get in that spirit, get that whole energy going and all of that. How is your dealings with commercial radio been? Because like I said, I come out of the world of nonprofit music. My folks actually started a community radio station way back in the mid 70s when I was a preteen. And part of that was that they didn't hear enough jazz. They also didn't hear enough conversations around rural North Carolina and around a number of other issues that were going on at that time. So, and we had recently in Durham lost the jazz station. There's another one that's now in effect and has been in effect for a couple of decades now, but at the time it wasn't around and the other one had gone. So they were filling a void, and they filled that void for about 12 years because they were feeling that there wasn't enough of those kind of things happening at that time. So like I said, the station lasted from about 76 to roughly 86 or 87, 88, somewhere around those time frame and everything. But even in that time, and I did have friends that went into commercial radio because that was my background. And then I've also worked for other college stations and what people consider low power radio stations and all of that. And of course, podcasting and things along those lines. But I do have friends that have been in that commercial space, and sometimes they even get frustrated. And I know my musician friends get frustrated by some of the corporate powers that are there, both in radio and in venue spaces, because we do know that there are some major corporations like Live Nation that own some of the bigger venues. So as an independent artist, how have you been navigating those avenues and working within those constraints? And on the other side of that, do you feel that the internet has really opened it up for you so that you don't have to depend as much on, say, the big commercial stations? Because I know for a fact that I could probably turn on a station here in Durham, North Carolina, turn on one where you are in Houston, and turn on one in California. And there might be certain songs like Bruno Mars and Beyonce that we would all hear at roughly the same time because they are that kind of limited amount of big hit wonders and all of that. So it's not always that great for the up and comers and those that have even been in the game for a while, like yourself. So I was just wondering your thoughts about the corporations and big media and whether it's hurting or hindering you as a musician.
It doesn't hurt or hinder me, and I also don't believe it hurts or hinders any other artist that's out there. Because what people have to realize is that in order for the radio stations or the major labels to be successful, they need the artists.
Right.
You know, and it has to be a mutual thing. But the thing is, if you want to be successful and you want to grow to that next level, you just have to do it on your own. You make them come calling you versus you going and calling them, or what it seems like some people do is harassing them or getting upset because their music is not being played on the radio. You know, don't let it affect your craft one way or the other. You have to do what you have to do for yourself to be successful. And when it's your time to get on that next major level, then they're going to come calling you. And guess what they're going to have to do? They're going to have to pay you more of what you're worth because they didn't believe in you or look at you earlier on when you first got started out. So we can't leave it up to them to say, okay, well, I need to be on the radio. Well, why do you need to be on the radio? That's the first question that you have to ask yourself. Why do you have to be on the radio? You know, so it's different things that go into it. We can't just sit back and wait on them to make us successful. We have to become successful for ourselves. And then all the other things that we're looking for, or even the things that we're not looking for, those opportunities will present themselves.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. How much when you're even talking to other artists, including some that are probably coming to your studio and definitely trying to get signed by your label and everything, how important do you think it is for us to not just develop the skill sets, but also to develop the business plan. Because I know a lot of artists that are very good at having amazing talent, but they're not always that great on the business side. So I was just wondering, do you feel that that's something that you had to learn on your own? Or is it something that you have a team that helps you in that regard? Or do you feel that it's something that you need to have both people that are experts in that as well as have some knowledge of it yourself? So how important is that business aspect of being an artist?
The business aspect is more important than the creation of the music. And it shouldn't be like that, because what happens is during that process, when we all become, let me see, what's the word? When we all get to the point to where we start focusing on the business so much, it dampens the creative juices, because now you're not as excited about creating the music because, I have to get the business done. But at the same time, if you don't get the business done, then you won't reap the benefits from your music, or someone else will reap the benefits from all of your creations.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to get the music done, but you also have to make sure that the business is done. And I've learned a lot on my own, but as well as my team, along with, and I include my team with Miss Sugar, and like I told you, with Kizzo and Congo and Billy and any other artists that I work with. That's one of the first things that you discuss. We're going to create the music, but we also have to make sure that the business is done behind the music.
Yeah, you definitely got to do that, and that's very much important. And you definitely got to have a great team behind you and all of that. And I know Ms. Sugar's definitely been doing a good part of that, public relations and all along those lines. How important do you think it is to have some good public relations behind you as well?
Oh, it's very important, because the artist can't be everywhere and talk to everyone.
Right.
And sometimes when the artist is the person that's doing all of the talking, sometimes people don't want to talk to the artist.
Mm.
So the thing is, what we have to do is, we have to have that person or those people to go out and make those connections, because like I said, sometimes label heads or radio execs, they don't want to speak with the artist.
Mm-hmm.
Because they and sometimes, but they have to also realize sometimes the artist has to speak for himself, because he actually runs his business.
Yeah.
But it's not a bad thing,
How easy has it been to be recognized as a musician in your own city? Because I know that sometimes I've got friends of mine that are musicians, even here in North Carolina, and they don't always feel that they get as much love here as they would if they were, say, in Paris or in other parts of the world. So I do know that sometimes our hometowns don't always recognize us as much as we would like them to recognize us. So I was just wondering, of course, Houston is a very big city, but how easy has it been to get the kind of recognition that you would like from Houston?
Getting the recognition in your home city has always been and will always be the hardest thing for a hometown artist.
Mm-hmm.
Because the people that know you, and it's not just with music, it's with any business that you have, the people that are closest to you and that know you the most won't support you the most, because they know you and they don't see what someone else, either they see what someone else sees and they're going to get behind you 100%, or they know you so good that they feel like if he makes it, then I'll support him.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people, and majority of artists that you talk to, you have to leave outside of your hometown if you want to grow. And it's not, like I said, it's not just with music. That's with life in general. In order for you to grow and figure out who you are, you have to leave your home. You have to leave that nest that your parents built for you in order for you to grow. Because if you stay at home with your parents, you'll never experience everything in life that you possibly could experience. So you have to go off to college in a different city. You have to move to a different state. And once you build up, then you can come back home and you'll have more respect then.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Coming back to talking about genres and everything, because it seems to me like a lot of your music is definitely got different styles in it. You mentioned blues, you mentioned jazz, you mentioned country, and things along those lines. Do you like to be, and I know you have a certain title for the way you describe your music, but do you like to be pigeonholed into one category or another? Or do you like to prefer to think that you are playing the music that say could get played on a country radio station, or maybe even an R&B station, or even, who knows, maybe even a polka station? And I'm just using that as an example. But do you like to think of the music as being a music that can cross different styles of interest, and different people can enjoy what you are performing? Because I know there was a famous jazz artist, I can't remember whether it was Miles or another one, that said that he did not necessarily like his music to be labeled per se as a jazz. He just wanted it to be recognized as good music.
Right, and that's one of the main reasons why I named my company Feel Good Music. It's because if you say, okay, you're a Southern soul artist, or you're a hip hop artist, or you're an R&B artist, then only those people who listen to that music are going to get promoted. They're going to promote your music to those different genres.
Right.
So it makes it difficult, because I can do any type of music that you can think of. If I get in the studio with anybody, it doesn't matter. I can write any type of song. I can sing anything. So it doesn't make a difference on what category you put me in. I can be successful in it.
Mm.
The whole thing is being in the room.
Right.
Once you get in the room, and what are you going to do when you get in the room? So put me in a jazz radio station, and it's not to say I have a jazz song at this moment, but if you give me the opportunity, okay, if you want something like that, I'm sure I can create it. So it's more so the opportunity than the genre, because the genre, once they label you and put you in the genre, then you're stuck. You're there.
Yeah. Is there any particular type of music, or any particular type of musical style or flavor that you hope to learn that you have not learned? Because I know I was talking to one person, and they were saying that they would love to learn more about some of the Indian instruments. I know somebody else that I mentioned it to, and they said that they would like to learn some more of the African instrumentation that's out there. So is there a particular musical instrument that you would like to learn that you don't know? And how many instruments do you play?
I would love to learn as many instruments as possible. I wouldn't say that I play one particular instrument or anything like that, because I can't just sit down. I can pick up a guitar and I may be able to play a little bit on it, but I can't just sit there and I won't be able to play you a song. See, me, I can get in the studio and I can create whatever needs to be created. Or I may have to bring in some other musicians. See, that's more on being the producer side. I can bring in the people that can make it happen.
Right.
So I don't necessarily need to play everything, but I would love to be able to play all instruments. I would love to experience different cultures from India to all of the different African to Jamaican. I love the Jamaican sound. That's one. One day I want to go back to Jamaica, and I want to just work in the studio in Jamaica and create an entire project. Okay. That's one of my dream projects.
That would be amazing. Well, that would really be amazing, and I can definitely see that and everything. If somebody was wanting to start their own production studio, their own label, what are some of the words of advice that you would give them if they were interested in doing that? Say there's some kid listening in Turkey, or some kid listening in Israel, and they're thinking and hearing our conversation, they're like, hey, I'm really liking what Mr. Casanova was talking about, and I'd like to do something similar here in my country, or maybe they're even in other parts of the United States. So what words of advice would you give to folks that are thinking that they would like to have their own label and or their own studio?
Less is more. You don't need $1 million studio to create $1 million sound.
Wow.
I mean, and it's kind of, you take whatever you have and you make that work.
Right.
See, we get caught up sometime in thinking, well, I don't have the same equipment that they have. I don't have these access to these people or these instruments or all of these different things. Well, what you have to do is whatever you do have at your disposal, use that, get the best that you can get out of that. And then, like I said earlier, you have to go and make yourself, you have to get in the room with other people that are doing that. So sometimes you may have to go and save your money, pay for studio time, and get in an area to where you may meet someone else and you pick up the information that you can learn from them.
Yeah, that makes a
So
lot
that's
of
the biggest thing. Less is more.
And a lot of people don't think about that. That less is more. That you can do a lot, even with a simple home studio. I know a lot of people have talked to me about how they feel that young kids these days don't know how good they've got it. Because I've heard a couple people talk about the power of this simple thing like an iPhone or an Android, because you can actually make whole videos with it and things of that nature that you can then put on the internet, and that you can do a lot of things. Matter of fact, one of my friends was saying that he wished he had that when he was a young man, because he knows he would be probably a millionaire by now and all of that, because of the power that those folks have with what they have at their disposal. But they don't always use it as much as they should. Would you agree with that?
100%. Because with these phones, you can record you can create the music on the phone, you can record it on the phone, you can record the song on the phone, you can do your mixing and your mastering on the phone, or you can upload it to a site that'll do it for you.
Right.
You can release it on the phone to all the iTunes, Spotify, all your different streaming platforms. You can release your videos there. So you kind of have all the technology right in your hand to do everything that you need to do.
Agreed. How big has social media been for you, as particularly in this pandemic era? Because I know a lot of people that have been actually getting their words out in a greater fashion during this pandemic era. So I would love to know your thoughts about how important that has been as well.
Social media is huge. It doesn't matter whether it's during the pandemic or before, but during the pandemic, it can increase. You will learn more because you have to sit down and be still.
Right.
And once you be still and you look into everything, you can examine what exactly that it is that you need to be successful.
Mm-hmm.
And you can search those things, and Google is your best friend.
Right.
Find out all the different avenues that you need, and then proceed with enhancing and increasing your skills in that area, and promoting, and find out who really enjoys your music. You learn how to look at your analytics and decide, okay, which demographic is enjoying my music the most. Is it male? Is it female? Is it 70 and above? Is it 20 and below? You can find out all of this information, and then you can cater to those people who enjoy your music the most.
No, I definitely agree. Now you got a song that actually Sugar was telling me about it and everything, and I want to get to some of your music. I'm going to try to pull some of it up from YouTube, but she said it's a song that is oftentimes misunderstood. So I would love for you to explain to me what you meant by the song "Quit My Job," because a lot of people are thinking about quitting their jobs, and of course, even in the modern day, we've got a lot of people that are actually going into hybrid work, or they're actually working from home, and they aren't necessarily going into the job force and all of that. But that might not have meant what you meant by "Quit My Job." And definitely Miss Shaney was saying that is a song that is sometimes misunderstood. So I'd love to hear your explanation of what "Quit My Job" is all about.
Well, "Quit My Job" is it's a song to where, it's talking about a man taking care of a woman,
Mm-hmm.
And catering to her needs. But at the same time, it's also talking about all the ways that man has stepped over that woman and mistreated that woman.
Right.
And people miss the underlying message in that song. And it's telling the woman, you don't have to put up with everything that you're putting up with him just so you can have that body next to you. Because it's somebody else that'll treat you better than this man is treating you. And a lot of times, whether it be a man or a woman, they'll tell you everything what their intentions are in a relationship with you. You just have to listen to what they're telling you. So that's basically what that song is describing in detail. And if you look through history, you look at movies and different things, you see how men treat women and women treat men. And it's just an example of some of those things that go on in relationships. Like if a man tell you he's going to quit his job to take care of you, well, how are you going to actually do that? You're going to stay home, you're going to cater to me, you're going to, while I go out to work, you're going to be here cleaning up the house, cooking the food, and taking care of everything. And is that what you really want in a relationship?
How do you think we're doing in terms of people actually listening to the messages behind the songs and all of that? Because I sometimes wonder whether we're even hearing the messages behind the songs. And Quit My Job is a case where you put a message behind. I know some other songs that have some very powerful messages, and I don't know that people always listen to the messages. I'm actually am active in Clubhouse, and I've become somewhat friends with Gil Scott Heron's daughter because she's in that space as well. And of course, he was a master of messages and all of that. But I was just wondering, how much do you think we actually listen to the message behind the songs, or is it just that we're so busy listening to and feeling the groove?
Most of the time, we're just listening and feeling the groove that we're missing the message.
Right.
The majority of songs have a message, whether it's a positive message or a negative message. A lot of times we miss the message or we misunderstand the message.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times we miss the message because we're so worried about the messenger.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
And that's a lot of times. It's not just with music, it's with life. Someone may be telling you something that's beneficial for you and your family and for your well-being, but we'll miss it because we don't appreciate the person who's telling us. We don't appreciate that person.
Right. Yeah, that's an interesting point that you got there. Sometimes we don't appreciate the messenger and the message that they might give in us that is a positive message. How important do you think it is? Because I know a lot of artists come out of the church, and I don't know whether you were involved in your church, but how important do you think it is to have and I think of it as us being balanced across the board, being, of course, having physical fitness, but also mental fitness and emotional fitness. And I would add that fourth one, spiritual fitness. And I don't mean necessarily being overly religious, because I sometimes think that certain churches misunderstand what religion is all about. But I definitely think that we need to have a strong spiritual basis and all of that. So how important is that in your creative process?
It's important because you have to know who you are and where you come from.
Exactly.
To understand where you're going to be going in the future.
Right.
And it's something that's not spoken about a lot, but people from our background tend to get caught up in religion and not spirituality.
Exactly.
Because there's a huge difference, and people, they get them all mixed up into one. Because see, now what I'm doing is I'm trying to study where I come from, where my family comes from. I want to know if my family was enslaved. I want to know who my people were. I want to know if my family was actually from America or if my family was from somewhere else.
Mm.
And as in doing research, you start learning who you are. You start learning that, wait a minute, you mean to tell me that everything that I learned in elementary school and junior high and high school is wrong? That my family wasn't slaves, or that some of my family was, and that the other part of my family were Native Americans, and that they actually lived here and have always been here? Oh, that they were Native Americans and they were enslaved. This is the thing. This was when we find out who we are. And then you open up and you get enlightened. I like to say now that once you see something, you can't unsee it.
Right. Yeah, that's very true. Once you see it, you cannot unsee it whatsoever. There's no doubt about that. Now, when you went to college, did you go to one of our HBCUs, or did you go to one of the PWIs? And what was that experience like for you in college, and how much did that influence your creativity as well?
Actually, I went to Sam Houston State University, and that's a PWI. But it enhanced my life because of the people that I met there. So the people that you know me through, I met them by going to that university.
Okay.
And they have become my family, my brother, my mother, things like that. So I met my family, an extended part of my family by going to this university. And I think no matter where you go, the people that are meant to be with you for the rest of your life, they'll gravitate to you or you'll gravitate towards them.
All right. You got a good point there and everything. What do you do when you run across people? Because I've run across this even in my own careers and everything that are overly negative and they want to discourage you. I'm sure that you've even had that within your own family and within your own family members. So what do you do and how do you handle those folks that are not necessarily following the dream, or maybe they're trying to even create a dream that isn't your dream? Because sometimes I also know that people will try to derail you and have you go into a dream that is their dream and it's not necessarily yours. So I was just wondering, how do you deal with those situations?
Stay away from negative people. It doesn't matter. At this point in life, you have to understand, and I wish I would have learned it earlier. It doesn't matter if it's your mother, your father, your brothers, your sisters, your cousins, your aunts, your uncles. If they're being negative and what they're trying to get you to do isn't in your best interest, then you have to stay away from them. You have to keep them at a distance. And that's not to say you don't communicate with them at all, but everybody's dream is not your dream. Your dream is not everyone else's dream. So you have to live your life for you.
Right.
And sometimes we live our life as when we're growing up, our parents have a certain idea of what they want for us in life.
Mm-hmm.
And because they may see the potential in us to go in that field. College is not for everyone.
Right.
Even some of your richest people in the world didn't graduate high school or don't have a college degree or a master's or anything of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody's dream for you may end up being your nightmare.
Wow. That's very true. How important do you think it is to have a music education? I mean, you've got a studio, and I imagine that you've definitely got some training in that. But I also know some great musicians that learned on their own or learned independently. But how important do you think it is to have "quote unquote" trained musical training?
I think it's important. When I was younger, and before I was a teenager, I played instruments. And then in my early teens, I played instruments in church. I played the drums, wanted to play the piano and the bass and different things like that. And it's very good if you learn that. I think every kid should learn one instrument.
Mm-hmm.
That should be something that should be mandatory. Because some of the things that we learn in school aren't as beneficial for us in life. So some things, I don't want to go too deep.
No, you can go deep because it's interesting you say that, because one of the founders here on this network, Nick Palvedo, he's actually on I think he may have landed by now, but he's going to New York for some business meetings and everything. But he talks about the fact of education and how some of the things that we learn in education are not necessarily helping us in the long run, but then there are other things that we should learn that we're not being taught in school. And one of those he talks about is fiscal responsibility and financial responsibility. But he also talks about, that a lot of times we eliminate things like music education and art education. And some of those things can help us in developing good critical thinking tools and all of that. So we don't mind you going deep on this network. So definitely, if you want to go deep, we actually welcome that. So definitely feel free to elaborate on that, because I know one of the things he talks about is that, to use a phrase that he has, is that he feels that we are into the 21st century, but we have some 18th century values in the sense of the way that we educate our folks and things along those lines. And I don't know if you have any kids or not, but if you do, you might even be seeing that in their school system and all of that. So definitely feel free to elaborate on what you were getting to elaborate on.
It's just it feels more like a miseducation system than an education system.
Yep.
Because for those reasons that you talked about, kids don't learn about financials unless they learn it at home.
Right.
And how can you learn about finances and taxes and different things like that at home if your parents are not aware of it?
Right.
One of the biggest things that kids should be taught in school is about finances and about credit.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the other things is that we don't understand is law needs to be taught in school. And I'm not talking about the definitions of law that we learn in the dictionary. Those aren't lawful definitions.
Mm-hmm.
So the definitions and things that we should be learning, they come from the laws that Congress passes,
Right.
like Title 15, Chapter 41, that teaches you about credit and about being a consumer and about being a natural person. These things are the things that we should be learning about. So it goes deeper than like how much social studies can you learn in school that'll actually teach you about social studies when it's really anti-social studies. They're not teaching you about social studies. Social means that you're, it's a group. It's being social.
Yeah, and you're right. They're not teaching a lot of that stuff in our school systems whatsoever, and that's something that we need to be doing more of. And another thing that I know some people that are friends of mine and some new friends have become involved in is some of the things that are eliminating the middleman in the arts fields and all of that. So I just wondering your thoughts about this whole NFT movement and artists using NFTs in terms of ways to make some money. And I was wondering if that's something that you're exploring at all, because I do know that there is something that even my friend Vesey Minks, who's in Chicago, has been talking about, and some other musicians I know, where they are eliminating sometimes the manager and other people. So it's more like the artist going directly to the consumer. And therefore they feel that this whole Bitcoin cryptocurrency thing is actually helping them in their creative space. So I was just wondering, is this something that you've explored at all? Because some of those people I was talking about that I was involved with on that conference were very much in the creative space, but also involved in crypto. So I was just wondering your thoughts about NFTs and those things as a tool for the artist.
I think it's a really good tool for the artist, and it's something that all of us should at least get into at some point. I'm not very familiar with it, but it's something that I'm working on getting more familiar with. And it's something that we need. And it's definitely because you have to look at how many artists get taken advantage of on the money side.
Mm-hmm.
Like from it could be from who was this? It was a basketball player. I can't think of his name right now. But he was a professional basketball player in the NBA, and he would go have his manager or whoever put money into his account for him to play with money.
Well,
For him to go to the casino or whatever he wanted to do. If he wanted to go buy something, he would tell him to give him $5,000 or $10,000 in this other account so he can go. But instead of the guy doing $5,000 or $10,000, the guy may take $50,000 and put it in that account and then pull that excess out before he even got to see it. Because if you're a professional basketball player, you don't see all your money. You're doing so many different things. So this is the same type of way that a lot of artists get taken advantage of. The promoter may charge them. They may charge the promoter $25,000 for the show. They may tell the artist, "Well, they only paid us $10,000 or $15,000 for the show," and then they pocket the rest of the money.
Another thing, and I was just thinking about this, I just did a business conference with a buddy of mine and everything. It was a Black Business Expo that we did. Well, it's actually called the Black Business Olympics. We did it for about a week. And the gentleman that was running it was saying, we need to encourage some of our kids to get, not to feel that music and the arts and to some degree even crime were the only ways to be a success. But I would agree with him to some degree, but at the same time, I would also argue that we probably need to get folks to learn some of the other skills that exist within the arts, because not everybody's going to be the next Bruno Mars or the next Beyonce or the next whatever other stars that are out there now. But there are a lot of people that are working and making a pretty good living on the production side or on the crew side or on the directorial side, if they're filmmakers and the things along those lines. So I was just wondering, when you talk to people that tell you they want to go into the arts, is that something that you try to push them to see is some of the other avenues, and maybe even avenues that aren't in the arts at all? Maybe you're trying to tell some of your family and friends that they might want to be a doctor or a nurse or a teacher or something like that. So when folks tell you that they want to be an artist, what is your answer to them? And do you try to get them to understand that there are various fields within the arts?
It's a yes and a no, kind of. So it's like you tell them if people want to get into the music, you don't discourage them from trying to get it. Whatever they're trying to do, you don't discourage them from trying to get into it. You just make sure that they're aware of everything that comes with it. There's more to being in the music business than being the lead singer. You can be a background singer and make a really good living.
Right.
You can be a producer and make a really good living. You can be a manager. You can do artist development. You can start a record label and do all the different things in that comes along with it. There's songwriting, all of those different things. But also, music is not the end all be all.
Right.
People need houses to live in.
Exactly.
My dad was a licensed electrician. But he was a carpenter. He was a plumber. He was a mechanic. Everything that you can, he was a jack of all trades. And even in my life right now, I'm the same way. Even with me doing music, I do all of these same things. I do electrical work. I do plumbing work. I do carpentry work. And everything else that needs to be done, I can do any of that.
It's interesting you say that because one of the shows that we have here on the network is done by a good friend of mine, a young lady named Coco McMillan. She's a international recording artist that lives here in the Triangle area. I believe Cary is the town that she's in and everything. But she is a former background vocalist for Gerald Levert before Gerald passed and everything. And one of the things that she talks about is that apparently Gerald told his background vocalists that they needed to be involved and know how to do, not necessarily they had to do it all the time, but know how to do some of the things that were not part of the glamorous jobs. Because she even told a story one time of actually going and after a show, wrapping the coils and doing that and everything. And definitely also being able to step in for the lead singer if by chance the lead singer got sick or something like that. So I was just wondering, is that something that you try to teach your crew as well, that they need to learn some of those skills that say the grips and the roadies and others might usually do, but sometimes you don't have all those people at hand and you have to step in also.
Everyone that's on my team, and I won't say that they're on my team, but we are a team. We all pitch in and do everything that's necessary. When we do our shows, the majority of the time when we put on shows, I'm the sound man. I bring the equipment. We all get together. We set up the equipment. We test the mics. We get everything tweaked. So we do all of that. We are the roadies. So everything that's involved with the music, you either have to learn how to do it yourself or you're going to pay someone else to do it.
Well, speaking of which, I'm glad that I just got a new friend of mine that has joined us. He's got his own company, and I think you're going to find this very fascinating. And I think he's also based out of the area as well, and I think y'all need to know each other. But first off, I was going to bring on some conversation points. Your brother was saying that you were being very insightful, says my brother is being very insightful and sharing some jewels right now, and definitely SFTS Radio was saying a jack of all trades. And speaking of a jack of all trades, I've got Matthew Newman with me, and Matthew Newman has got a new project out there called Trousseau. And you've heard of Clubhouse, right, Mr. Marcel? Well, he's got something that is similar to Clubhouse called Trousseau, because it's going to be the video version of a Clubhouse. So he's actually going to have an app that's going to be out there that will create that and all of that. So instead of it being a strictly audio version like what Clubhouse is, you will have the video ability as well. So he was part of our recent Black Business Olympics and did a lot of great jobs with that. And I know Dr. Kelly appreciates him. I appreciate him as well, but he's also, if I remember correctly, aren't you in the Texas area as well, if I remember correctly, Matthew?
Great question, Mark. I'm originally from Houston, born and raised in Missouri City.
Okay.
But I currently live in Inglewood, California.
Cool. And like I said, Mr. Casanova lives in Houston, is from a town called Atlanta, Texas, and all of that. And he's got his own production studio, his own record label, and he's got some amazing music. So y'all are both there in that area. And we've just been kicking it, talking about the music scene and some of the amazing things that he is doing in that regard. So he's doing some really insightful things. And we've just been talking about folks and a lot of things. We've been talking about negativity and things along those lines. So actually, I'm going to ask you the same question that I just asked him, and I'd love to hear your answers, because I'm imagining that you probably had to deal with this also. And I'm going to try to see if I can't bring up the Trousseau ad so he can see what your whole project is all about and things along those lines. But When you were dealing with people, Mr. Matthew, that were in that negative space and they were very much not wanting to encourage you, because I imagine you even faced that just like Marcel did. How did you address that, and how did you deal with folks that were trying to tell you that it'll never happen? And they're probably still telling you that it'll never happen to this day.
Yeah, and here's one of the things I actually had to encourage my best friend with the other day, probably 2 weeks ago now. It was that you have to be careful with the people who criticize you, because the people who criticize how far you've gone probably haven't even started, right? And so we have to be very careful with the energy that we decide to absorb or take on, because the critics are often birthed out of nothing. And what I mean by that is that they haven't had the desire, the courage, the inspiration, and the motivation to even start themselves. And so it's very easy to criticize someone based on what you have not done. But if you've done it and you have not succeeded, or have not succeeded yet, or you have not, or you've succeeded, it's very, you should be hesitant to criticize someone, because you understand that's where empathy comes in, is that you're empathetic. You understand how it is and what it was in order for you to get success. And so why criticize someone else's path? And so the principle that I would like for folks to extract out of that is simply, those who criticize you for how far you've gone probably haven't even started. Number one. Number two is that criticism is birthed out of nothing, meaning that, again, the people who criticize haven't even started, so therefore they have nothing to base their criticism on, only that you've taken the step that they wish that they could take.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. What do you think about that, Marcel, and what he was just saying about those folks that are oftentimes being overly critical and haven't even gone on the journey themselves?
He said it. I don't even think I can say it any better than he said it, because you have to protect your energy. And I'm glad he mentioned energy in there, and you have to protect your energy, because most people, they come to just suck the energy out of you, suck the life out of you. And like, they haven't started, they don't even know where to go in your field.
Right.
I was watching, I think it was something with Mike Tyson or somewhere, but what people do in boxing, most of the commentators, they've never been a boxer. So how can you tell someone who's never been a boxer, how can someone that's never been a boxer tell a boxer what something, winning a championship or unifying belts or different things like that, means to them? So it's the same thing in his field and with my field. They're not in your field, first of all. They don't know anything about your field, and they just want to bring you down. But I think some people, that's their job. They were put here to be negative, to pull energy from you. And with us, we have to know how to deflect that and use that as motivation.
And speaking of that, and I'd love to hear from both Matthew and you, Marcel, and everything. What do you do when you run across people that are not willing to pay you your worth? Because I know a lot of times people get into fields and they're oftentimes given a discount rate, or they want you to perform. I imagine you've run into that, Marcel, where they want you to perform for free. They give you that whole song about it's going to be good for your reputation, or it's going to be good to help you on the long run, and things along that line. So I was just wondering, how do you deal with folks that are undercharging or that are not willing to pay you your worth?
You say no. It's become that simple. Like, I had to learn in my life how to say no.
Mm-hmm.
Because being a helpful person, you want to help everyone and, make sure everyone gets what they need. But then you have to learn, well, what about you?
Right.
So when people give you a opportunity, as they would call it,
mm-hmm.
it's going to be good for your promotion or something like that, then you have to just simply say no.
Yeah, it makes sense. What about you, Matthew? How do you deal with that? Because I'm sure that as a business owner, and as one that is launching an app, that you've probably had a lot of folks that are probably trying to get your product at a serious discount price, and then they're not willing to pay what it's actually going for, even as you're setting up these platforms for folks to invest in you. So how do you deal with folks that are saying that they want to help you and may not necessarily be doing it?
Yes, and it starts, Marc and Marcel, even prior to me starting an app. And one of the things one of my lady best friends says, she was actually a part of the 40 Acre Conference last week. She says this years ago. She says, never discount your value for someone else's budget. And that for years has stuck with me, is that you never discount what you're worth to fit someone else's budget, whether it's $0 or $1,000. If that's not what where your value is, don't discount it to fit that budget. And so even let's take the spotlight off of me and for Truso. Let's just look at the Black community overall. I was doing some research as I received your email a few moments ago, Mark. I'm sitting in front of my computer working on an executive summary for a pitch competition coming up for Super Bowl weekend.
Okay.
And in my research, what I'm finding is there's a lot of things I can talk about here, but nonetheless, to stay to this question is what I discovered was Black Enterprise released a study, and it showed that Blacks are receiving 35% less income via social media than its white counterparts. I'm gonna say that again for listeners. Black creators or influencers are receiving 35% less for their content than compared to their white counterparts. And so what one influencer said that was so valuable is he said that racism finds its way into in any industry. Social influencer marketing isn't any different. And so these disparities that we're continuing to see, whether they treat Marcel as a performing artist different than they would treat a Sabrina Carpenter or any other white celebrity, right, or counterpart. They're coming to him expecting him to accept less because of who he is and for what he represents compared to a white counterpart. And so to Marcel's point, we have to simply say no. To my best friend's point, we have to be careful and mindful of being able and capable and equipped and motivated to say, I will not sacrifice what I'm worth to fit your budget. And that's the same thing on these social media platforms. If people aren't going to pay us what we're worth, if they're not going to value our contribution, why in the heck are we supporting them? Why? Why do we continue to log in? Why do we continue to log on? Why do we continue to share content that's coming from these platforms if they're not valuing who we are and what we're worth?
It's interesting you say that and everything, because I just came back, after having worked those 9 days with Alan's conference and then following that with Dr. Kelly's conference and everything. It was time to go see my barber. So I saw him earlier this afternoon, morning and everything. And when I was there, he was talking about the fact that it was about, he made a very interesting statistic, which I had not thought about, which is that when we came out of slavery, out of emancipation, it was about 75% of our families were in what would be considered traditional nuclear families. And he said that what he heard was that about 70% of our families now are in broken homes. They are actually in homes that are definitely coming out of wedlock, is what some of the church people might call it, and all of that. And that just really shocked me when he said that, because I'm going like, we came out of slavery, we went to Reconstruction, which is a very positive, productive period when we had a lot of our businesses being built. And now we're almost at a very opposite kind of strain where 75% of our young people are being born out of wedlock. And then we wonder why we're having all these problems around crime and economic injustice and the things along those lines. But I'd love to hear, and then I'm going to play Truso's commercial, and I'm also going to play at least one of your cuts so that folks can get a little taste of both of you and everything. But I'd love to hear your thoughts about what Mr. Boyd had told me. He shared some other interesting facts as well, including the fact that we sometimes try to criticize people that come from other countries, because he was mentioning that the leader of Tanzania comes from a country that she is one of 3 wives, but she is also very well educated. And sometimes people are looking at her like, how can you live that lifestyle? But that is part of their culture. So it's nothing unusual for them to be fitting within that, but she's the one that's running the country and all of that. But we've got this attitude that our view is that the American way is the only way. And I don't know that I necessarily agree with that, but apparently she's doing a good job of leading her country, and they're doing some serious economic development. So I'd love to hear your thoughts about both of those things that Mr. Boyd shared with me before I get to the Truso ad and at least one of your cuts. Matthew, you can go first.
Okay, I believe that this is a topic in it and of itself when it comes to the first conversation of Mr. Boyd, because we as a community, let's talk about the Black community. There are several staggering statistics surrounding broken homes. The statistic we often hear about how many homes don't have Black fathers. I did this whole research in grad school regarding this and its play on the church, right? So we can go down that path, but I want to try to keep it concise in saying this is that we have attached ourselves to an expectation of us, which perpetuates either the stereotype or the being okay with being in a single house. I dated a young lady for 4 years who had a child. I knew this kid since she was 2 months old. Me and the mom broke up when the baby was 4 years old. And all along that path, the mom was like, look, it's the daughter needs her dad. I'm like, no, the daughter needs consistency.
Right.
The daughter doesn't need inconsistency. What the daughter needs is consistency. Forget a relationship if it's inconsistent. I can know you exist, but it doesn't mean that I deserve a relationship. And so therefore, me trying to expose her to that alternative perspective, although I was the outsider, was my way of showing her that it's important for you to detach yourself from the expectation. The expectation is that a child grows up and should know his father, or her father. No, the child should grow up knowing consistency. That's number one. The second point that I would like to drive home is the point of, is America the right way to do it? No, America is not the right way to do it. We see that day in and day out. If America was the right way to do it, then let's move legislation, to outlaw lynching. Let's start there. If America is doing the right thing, then let's start there and say that it is not okay for you to lynch.
Yep. No, that makes a lot of sense.
We'll keep it very, very, very surface level, right? It's like, if America was the model to follow. Now, I'm not saying that there aren't great things in America. I think there are phenomenal things in America, but there are also so many things that other countries, even some that are underdeveloped, are doing that outperform the maintenance on a country that America has.
No,
So
I definitely.
I mean, again, we can go all day about this, but to keep it very surface level and concise in my response, we have to pay attention to what's right in front of us. Now, let's not attach ourselves to the expectation that society has. Let's break those stereotypes. Let's eradicate those stereotypes. Let's form new ways to create a more cohesive environment in society. And number two is, let's recognize that we don't have all the answers, folks.
No, yeah, you got a point there. It's interesting you said that, because that was the other thing that he brought up as well, because he was even mentioning some of the laws that exist as well, because sometimes one of the things that Mr. Boyd was talking about was the fact that we actually encourage some of our people to not go into relationships and to keep the relationships, because he was talking to some of these folks that are involved, as you were saying, with other folks in their life. So maybe they're like, the woman had a child and then they were involved with the lady after the fact and everything, but then they would go up, what we call going up top, because I'm here in Durham, so they would go up to like New York and everything, because they knew that if the law came and they were seen in the household, they could lose a lot of their money influences that they had gotten from the government and things along that line. So there was a little bit of a gamemanship that was going on as well, and that's the government encouraging that gamemanship and things along those lines. I'd love to hear Marcel's thoughts about this as well.
My thoughts on it is, it was all done by design.
Mm-hmm.
It was all done by design. Before integration, how was our families doing then?
Right.
They were thriving. So, like Martin Luther King said, he believed his dream, it became a nightmare, is what a lot of people refuse to talk about. Right. His dream became a nightmare.
Right.
He integrated his people into a burning house.
Mm-hmm.
Those are Martin Luther King Jr.'s words. So when you look at, after integration, what happened? We wanted to go somewhere where we don't belong, where they did not want us at. That's like nowadays, people will go into a store and the people will tell them, I don't want you here. I don't want your money. They will get upset. They will pull out their phone. They will start recording and saying, look how they're treating me. They don't want me here. They want to take my money. Leave. Go to someone who wants your money.
Right.
Go spend with your own people. If you go somewhere you're not wanted, why would you want to be there? You're going to force the situation for you to be there. Don't do that.
Yeah.
So we got to a point to where we forced the situation, and it's just happened over decade after decade. we stayed in this position, and now we feel like we're entitled. Everyone feels like they're entitled to something that does not belong to them or somewhere where they're not wanted. This is not the case. We have to start doing for self.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree with you on that and everything. Speaking of doing for self, and I do want everybody to check out what Truso is all about. So I do still have access to that lovely ad and everything. So I want y'all to hear what Truso is all about. So I'm going to let Matthew have a little bit of love here as well. Matthew, I also need to get you. We did not have it this week on the Media Monday because we have different people talking about their media projects and all of that. So I'll probably send you a link on that for next Monday. But definitely that is a show that happens at noon, but it did not happen today because the founder of the network, Nick Palveda, and Kim Calhoun, well, Nick was on a business trip up to New York. So I know we'll be back next week on the 31st. So hopefully your schedule will be available at that time as well. But right now, let's check out what Truso is all about.
I'd like you to imagine with me, if you will, opening an app where you can collaborate with like-minded individuals from around the world, get inspiration and in-app tools to launch and grow your business, as well as share your knowledge and earn compensation, all in one app. Well, the name of that app is Truso, short for Truly Social. Hi, I'm Matthew Newman, the founder and CEO of Truso. A new concept in social media, Truso is designed from the ground up to be a platform that's both social and empowering for all its users. How exactly do we do that? I'm glad you asked. First, Truso brings the world together via video. Psychologists assert that video provides a significantly more effective connection than audio only. When you enter a community on Truso, you're face to face. Second, on Truso, you don't have to have 1 million followers to monetize. Our business model allows all hosts and moderators to monetize, no matter the size of your following, by 1, producing fee-based content, and 2, inviting others to join the platform as subscribers. Even more, Truso has an in-app resource library with over 100 free resources, forms, and documents to help you build your brand and grow your business. Third, Truso is inclusive. The deaf and hard of hearing communities make up 360 million people worldwide. Unlike audio-only apps, Truso embraces this community, providing a networking platform that allows them to participate via video and closed captioning. We even have a deaf and hard of hearing foundation in the works as well. Fourth, Truso is both social and safe. We refer to Truso as a virtual extension of the beauty shop, barbershop, and brainchild of the community. A place where there's laughter, along with wisdom, growth-oriented conversation, and genuine connections in a safe space. Truso even has proprietary security to ensure we maintain a safe environment for everyone. Where are we at now? Truso is live, y'all. We've launched in beta and we're acquiring users daily. We have an incredible development and marketing team, plus amazing celebrity influencers at the table, helping us spread the word around the globe, beginning within the African diaspora and beyond by creating a safe space for growth, connection, and collaboration. We're truly excited about Truso. We've created something special for which there is a global market. And we invite you to embark on this journey with us as a shareholder. The future for Truso is truly bright. Join us and let's go there together.
Well, you're doing some amazing things and everything along those lines. So I definitely appreciate the great work that you're doing and all of that in terms of developing that app. And definitely, I know a lot of people will be very much interested in hearing about that app. And I've actually got one other person that's going to join us from a different part of the world and another part of cultures and all of that. But David is going to join me, David O'Reilly, and he's actually one of those people that is very much about the disability community. So I'm sure that he will be glad to know that the new app has some things that will address those with disabilities, because he is from Scotland. And if I remember correctly, he is actually disabled himself and everything. How you doing, David? Glad that you were able to join us and everything. But definitely we got Matthew, and Matthew is one that has definitely been involved into the space of developing that new app, Truso, and all of that. And I know that you come from the disability space, so you'll be glad to know that this new app, it'll be better than Clubhouse. I'm already claiming that for you, Matthew. It's going to be better than Clubhouse and all of that, that it will have a video aspect, and that it will address those that are deaf and those that have other disabilities and things along those lines. So as one coming from Scotland, what are your thoughts about a app that will address those in the disability space and all of that?
Well, hi guys, and thank you very much for letting me join in this evening. It's very nice to meet you, Mr. Matthew, and good to see you again, Mark. And I'm, of course, a great supporter of anything that helps disabled people in technology. And I'm actually working with the BBC at the moment. I make films for disabled people, so I'm constantly looking for ways to make my films more accessible and more interactive for people with very abilities or disabilities. It's really interesting and growing area. And, I would really like to make disabled people, I really like to fight for disabled people's rights. And, I wish there was more campaigning on behalf of disabled people. I feel that, particularly, I can't talk about America because I don't know that very well, but I feel that the way that we treat disabled people in the United Kingdom is shameful, utterly shameful. They're the most oppressed group in the whole society. They have the worst employment rates, the worst health outcomes. That that they live in the most socially deprived people, and I often talk about disabled people as the last minority group because I firmly believe that they're the last minority group that anybody really, gives any rights or consideration to whatsoever. So that's why I try and promote and work on my work. So it's it's an uphill battle, but a worthwhile one.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I hear you. Matthew, what made you decide, because I never asked you that question, to actually address the hearing impact of the app and everything? Because I know it's a video app, but I didn't know whether there was any family members in your own family that were in that hearing or disabled community that is the reason that it was such an important part, because I noticed that it's definitely featured in that ad, and it's something that you addressed and made it clear that that was something that you were doing intentionally. So I was just wondering, what was it that made you address that issue?
Absolutely. So no deaf or hard of hearing folks in my family. However, I took 3 years of American Sign Language in high school and then 2 years of it in college. And so at that time, I really began to understand and appreciate. And most folks, when they write deaf, they write it with a lowercase d, when in fact it depends on which community you're speaking of, but the community we're trying to reach is with the capital D, right? Mm-hmm. So there's a difference there. But with that being said, is that the deaf community, as David has said, is one, it's you have employment rates that are low within those who are disabled. Number 4, I believe, was the point that he touched on, was just the last surviving minority group. And the reason for that is because it's a group that's often isolated and kept out. And so social media cannot claim to be social nor inclusive if it excludes the disabled, right? Like it's plain and clear. And when I was approaching this topic of our reach to the capital deaf community or hard of hearing community, it was, what is a community that needs the accessibility to social media? And that's the deaf community. Right. So, for example, if a deaf person was listening in or watching this broadcast right now, they would not be able to tune in.
Right.
Right. And so those are things that we have to pay attention to. It's like, if we're going to be inclusive, we have to be sure that we're being inclusive, by providing the accommodations necessary for all people to be included. And so again, when we look at Clubhouse, for an example, or any drop-in audio app, I can't drop into an audio room without and be deaf. I can't. But if I'm on video, the beautiful part of being on video is that whether or not I have captioning on or not, I can still read the lips of the presenters. And so that is a way to accommodate the deaf. And so we said that the only way to be social is by combining those two. This happened in my research last night as well, is that now what video provides, it provides both the visual and the auditorial sensor, right? To where now, whether you're hearing or even if you're deaf, you can still participate in a social community, especially amongst the isolation that each of us are in now because of the pandemic.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Hey, Marcel, how are you dealing with talking about different issues, including issues outside of our community within your music? I don't know if any of the songs have things that address other communities other than our African American community. So I was wondering whether any of the songs touch on things like the deaf or women's rights or some of the other minority groups that are out there. I'm just wondering some of the things that you're doing in your music to touch on these issues.
Actually, I've written songs about some issues, and for other people, I haven't released any of those songs for myself because I think that my biggest focus is if I can't address my own people first in my own situation first, then I don't have any right to try to address another situation.
That makes a lot of sense in everything you.
Mark, if I may, Marcel, I don't know if you saw me. I was doing the poetry snaps over here, brother.
I saw you.
Look, that is spot on, and I have to share this, Mark, if you don't mind, Marcel, if I can pick back off this thought, is that a gentleman who is responsible for our subscription and monetization structure of the app said something so important. He said that we have to be willing to be able to talk to our people in the language they understand. Mm-hmm. And we should be unapologetic about it, right? So many times we're trying to find the right language to put in order to appeal to a broad audience. I don't care about appealing to a broad audience. I want to appeal to my audience, right? And if you're true to being a true ally of our community, because you know of the disparities, right? We can even roll this into David's world. If you're true to being an ally for those who are disabled, don't shift your message. You need to drill the narrative that we understand so that they can begin to understand our culture better. Right? I'm not going to dumb down anything. So Marcel, kudos to you, brother. Like the first reach is our community. That's the first reach.
Yeah, because you have to address your own in that situation before you can move on and address another situation. And everything is not about race, but it is. So you have to. I can't have a discussion with someone of another race about what's going on in my community if I haven't addressed that with my community, because it's not for me to make you understand how I feel about something.
That makes a lot of sense. What do you think about safety concerns and everything? And I'm get ready to bring up your song and everything because I was actually going to switch the topic just slightly and everything. But I know one of the things that happened in Houston recently, and it was with a very popular artist, was that there was people that were wanting to get back out into the public. They went to a concert, and then there was some concerns as to whether enough was done in terms of being a safe venue, both in the sense of the pandemic, but also in the sense of the way the concert was treated and all of that. And I actually have done concerts, and so I know that it should be done effectively, but I also know that if you're trying to get people back out into the open public, that it sometimes we can be in a rush to want to get back out. So I'm just wondering your thoughts about that incident that happened in Houston and whether you think there was enough efforts to secure that venue.
I'm not too familiar with what all happened. I saw a few clips here and there. I wasn't there, so I can't speak on whether he did enough or if everybody who was involved did enough or whose fault it was. So I can't speak on it because I don't have any firsthand knowledge of it.
Gotcha. That makes a lot of sense. You definitely want that firsthand knowledge and all of that. So I can definitely relate to that and want people to hear that and all along those lines. I did want people to hear your music, and I loved, like I said, the title of this one. I might get to another one before we totally get out of here, but I didn't think it was fair not to have Truso on and not hear at least some of your music as well. So we're going to hear a little bit of the song entitled "Quit My Job." So make sure I got my volume up and all of that. And then we're going to hear this, and I think folks will thoroughly enjoy this particular song. Is there anything that you want to say about Quit My Job before I hit the button play?
Just try to listen to the message, and you'll understand the song.
Okay, sounds good.
I'll quit my job so I can care for you, baby. You need a man that's gonna be there for you, lady. Ain't got no money, it ain't got no car, but girl,
And now, more feel-good music.
I'll quit my job so I can care for you, baby. You need a man that's gonna be there for you, lady. Ain't got no money, it ain't got no car, but girl, I've got the biggest heart. What you wanna hear? Just make it plain. I can lie to you, baby, about anything. You didn't see my face, you ain't got no case. Your friends are lying, they wanna take your place. You know I'm a good man, and I treat you right. I give it to you morning, noon, and night. What you want from me, baby? Just make it plain. I can lie to you, baby, about anything. Watch me. I'll quit my job so I can care for you, baby. You need a man that's gonna be there for you, lady. Ain't got no money, it ain't got no car, but girl, I got the biggest heart. I'll quit my job so I can care for you, baby. You need a man that's gonna be there for you, lady. Ain't got no money, it ain't got no car, but girl, I got the biggest heart. When I first met you, girl, I was doing bad, living with my mama, and I was catching cabs. But you changed my life, made me a new man, got me a job, a woman, and a plan. But something changed, and it's not your fault. I got lazy, comfortable, and all. I started lying and creeping with your friends every other weekend. Woo! I quit my job so I can care for you, baby. You need a man that's gonna be there for you, lady. Ain't got no money, it ain't got no car, but girl, I got the biggest heart. I'll quit my job so I can care for you, baby. You need a man that's gonna be there for you, lady. Ain't got no money, it ain't got no car, but girl, I got the biggest heart. Baby, give me your keys, let me drive your car. Pick you up from work, treat you like a star. Baby, give me your keys, let me drive your car. Pick you up from work, treat you like a star. I need my job. You need a man. Ain't got no money, ain't got no car. I can lie to you, baby, about anything.
Yeah, I like that song. Great song there and everything. Hey, Matthew. Hey, Matthew, what do you think? Can that be featured on Truso?
Yeah, absolutely. It sounds there's a mix of Nate Dogg. I hear the Nate Dogg rapping, singing part in it. I also hear, I don't know if you all have ever heard of a group out of Dallas called Them Southern. But it's a very soulful urban type of neo soul group out of Dallas called them Southern Folks. And so I feel the vibes of both Nate Dogg and them Southern Folks. What I pulled too out of the song, with it being, I believe it was sold out, is that regardless of what needs to be done, I'm gonna do it. I'm sold out.
Yeah, see, it's a combination of that, but and it has an even deeper message than what I talked about earlier. Is if you get to the second verse and you hear, and that second verse in that bridge where it's saying, you know, you made me a better man, but at the same time, I still went and did everything wrong and went with your friends and everything. And then you get to that bridge part, it's telling you, I know have you seen the movie Baby Boy with Tyrese in it? So what did he do? All of that stuff that I described in that song was what Jody was doing in there as Baby Boy.
Right.
And she stayed with him knowing everything that he put her through and everything he went with. And sometimes women is y'all fault sometimes. Not saying everything is y'all fault, but y'all know what's going on. Men will tell you, and even the other way around, women will tell the men too and show them, but we don't take advantage of that opportunity when it's right for us to leave that situation.
And sometimes you got to leave that situation. And you're right. That's actually coming back to another part of the conversation I was having with Mr. Boyd, because we were talking about the family dynamics, and some of that family dynamics that we were talking about the way of women, because there's actually been a push to have women step out into the forefront and things along that line. And while he was saying that it can be a good thing, we also need to recognize that both genders are needed in order to be truly successful, and because it can be one being more prominent than the other, but it has to be kind of a balancing act, and we don't always push for that balance, and sometimes it might be going toward opposite extremes. So definitely we've had periods where the males have been overly aggressive and overly in charge, and we definitely need to have that woman's voice as well. But then there might be some people that are pushing to have the woman's voice being overly dominant as well, and that's part of the conversation we were having there in the barbershop and everything. But I was just wondering y'all's thoughts, and this is for everybody, including David, into the role of women in your life, and whether there needs to be kind of a joint effort that we're not seeing enough of in society. Anybody?
If y'all don't mind, I'm gonna go first because I'm gonna have to jump here within the next 2 minutes as I'm for 1 o'clock call. However, one, I appreciate this time and thank you for allowing me to jump off prematurely. I believe that society for years has defined the role of a woman or the role of a man, what we refer to as gender roles, right?
Right.
Even in my household with my wife, we don't have gender roles. Like if the trash is full, I always take it out, but she has no problem with taking the trash out, right? She's not gonna be stuck folding the clothes or washing the dishes or vacuuming the floors. Like if it's dirty, you vacuum. If it's whatever the case may be. And so, again, let's go back to the thought of attaching ourselves to an expectation. Is that we attach ourselves to an expectation that society has put on us, but necessarily doesn't work in every household. And so we have to identify for ourselves is what works in your household. What works in your life? What role does a man play in your world, and what role does a woman play in your world? And that is fine for you and for your house. Determined by external factors. Yeah,
I agree with you. What do you have to say about that, Marcel?
I agree with him, with Matthew, 100%. Like he said, certain things that go on in the household, like in my family, like me and my wife, we take care of each other.
Right.
And, we provide for our kids. It's not that I do it. It's not that she does it. We do it together. We work as a unit. So if we work as a unit and that works for us, then that's the only thing that matters. It doesn't matter if she could make $1 million a month and I can make $100,000 a year, and it wouldn't make a difference because we're a unit, and that's how it's supposed to work with us.
No, that makes a lot of sense. And I know both you and Matthew have to jump off and everything. Well, actually, Matthew's already jumped off, but I know that Sugar told me that you had to jump off as well. And the show's getting ready to end shortly because I got to get ready to do my other one. And David, you can join me on that one if you want, and I'll put that link in there. But Marcel, I have thoroughly enjoyed this conversation with you. I hope that you'll come back on again. We oftentimes get into these deep conversations, and you know you are always welcome to come back on. But there are two things that I always try to get my guests to do, which is one, it is an international platform, so any message of positivity or encouragement that you can give them, I would love to hear that from you, and also any words of ways that folks can reach you through social media, whether that's Instagram, your website, and all of that. That folks that will be catching this in the team replay, because I know we had folks watching as we were going live, but we will also put it on team replay, might be interested in learning how to reach you and all of that. So Marcel, tell folks how they can reach you and any words of positivity or encouragement that you would like to give people.
You can reach me on social media. You can find Feel Good Music Studios or Marcel Casanova on all different platforms. My words of encouragement on my website, feelgoodmusic.org or soulout.com. But my words of encouragement or just uplifting will be equity over equality, and do for self, and just believe in yourself and put into yourself.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. I definitely appreciate that. I know Sugar's definitely expecting you to head over there. I think y'all have another conference call and everything, but I definitely will be keeping in touch with you. And like I said, I hope that you will make a return trip, and I might even put on another one of your songs before totally getting out of here and everything. But I was really, as you could tell, I was over here grooving, so I was really enjoying that sound and everything. So you have done a great job, and I love your attitude and the kind of thought patterns that you've got, and I see that we've got a lot of similar things in that regards as well. So do know, as I tell all my guests, particularly those that I have bonded with, you are always welcome to come back, and I know that Miss Cheney is going to bring some other people on as well in the near future. But anytime that you want to come on, just send me an email or have Sugar send me an email, and we would love to have you make a return trip and all of that. The music, is it available on Spotify, and where can they find the current music other than your website if somebody should want to go and purchase that sound as well as any of your other new releases?
iTunes, Spotify, all your different streaming services, whoever you use, you can find it. Tidal, everything. Search Marcel Casanova, search Soul Out. That's a Soul Southern is the name of the group album from which that song that you just played is on there. And I have solo projects available. We have Southern Love 1, Southern Love Part 2, and then we have Country Southern Love is another project. And then I have a single out called Certified. So just wherever you search Marcel Casanova, you go to Google, put in Marcel Casanova and Feel Good Music, and you should find what you're looking for.
I can tell you that one of the songs I'm going to play while you're heading out to that other appointment is the one about friendship and everything along those lines. So if you just want to tell folks really quickly as you're heading out the door what I Need a Friend is all about, because I know that that is one that I saw and I loved that attitude. And I think we all need friends, and particularly sometimes friends that are of the opposite genders and all of that. So I would love to hear you talk about You Need a Friend and what that is all about, because I do know that that is at least one of them that I'm going to play. I might play others also, but I'm definitely going to put on You Need a Friend.
You Need a Friend is basically just a man telling a woman that he need if she doesn't always necessarily just need a man in her life, but she need a friend first. You know, right. The man and the woman, you can be in a relationship or a couple, but you have to be friends first, and it has to start right there. So that beautiful young lady that you see in that video with me, that's my best friend. That's my wife.
Wow.
So I try to make sure she gets the light in all my videos because she means the most to me in the world. And there you have it. That's my friend. She needed a friend, and I needed a friend, and we found each other.
That makes a lot of sense. How did y'all find each other? And was she in the music game as well, or how did y'all actually manage to connect?
Actually, we met in college. We met in a biology class, I want to say. I think it was a Tuesday. I think she said it was a Wednesday. We still argue about that today. But it's been about 20 years.
Wow. Well, y'all been together for 20 years. And how many children do y'all have, and how are they doing?
Two children. Okay. My son will be 14 this month, and I have a daughter that's 10.
And are either one of them following in your footsteps? And I don't know if you answered my question whether she was also in the arts or whether she was doing something outside of the arts, meaning your wife.
No, she's in the medical field.
Okay.
She's in the medical field. She didn't have anything to do with the music, although she is the big influence in all my music. But both of my kids are musically inclined. They both sing. My son is a trombone player. He's first chair trombone player. So he's pretty talented, and we're looking forward to him possibly getting scholarships in band.
Well, there's some great musical schools right here in Durham, where I'm at. North Carolina Central University is definitely internationally recognized, as is the Duke University. John Brown being the person that is the music person over at that particular department. But they are both have some national and international recognition. So they'll have to keep me informed as to how their education is doing, and who knows, maybe they'll wind up going to school here in Durham and hanging out with Uncle Mark. I'm claiming them as my nephews and everything and all of that. So just letting you know that is two of the schools, and actually UNC also has a strong music department as well, University of North Carolina and East Carolina as well. So there are a few of them here in the state of North Carolina that have very strong music departments, and that I think that he might enjoy. And much respect for your wife, because we do know that during this pandemic era, a lot of people got new respect, of course, for the nurses, the doctors, and the teachers of America, because we saw that what they have to do on a regular basis is something that we have oftentimes given them respect and love for, but probably not as much as we should. And they definitely have had people in society recognize how important they are to us and what we're doing, as they have been at the forefront and on the front lines of this entire battle. So any final parting words you want to give to your wife for her profession and for your love of her as you head out the door?
Hey, just I love you, and I can't say any more than that.
Yeah. And I agree, and you probably agree with me that she's doing some great things in the sense of her work in the medical field, because those doctors and nurses are just incredible, and we definitely need them. I know that I'm getting ready to push up on 60 later on this year, and I know that as I age, and as my parents who are actually, let's see, mom is not, well, both parents will be in the 80s later on this year. One is already there. That as we get older, the more we need our medical people. And of course, we all need them at all ages, from baby to the end and all of that. So that is just a truly amazing field, and much respect for her for doing that work.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me on.
No problem. So I'm going to play that song right now as he heads on out. I did have another quick question for David, but I'm going to put that on as we head out the door and everything. And I know he's heading out the door right now and everything. But we're going to put on this song entitled "You Need a Friend." And it sounds like it's definitely something that I'm sure many folks can relate to in that sense. So here's the song, "You Need a Friend."
Try to analyze our whole relationship. Try to figure out what's why and how are we doing this.
Hey, I'm your host. We got some feel-good music for you tonight. From the boy, Marcel Casanova, and You Need a Friend.
What's up, girl? How come every time I see you talking about you need a man? Nah, let me talk to you. I ain't tryna be no player, and I ain't tryna sound all cool. I ain't tryna act no fly, and I ain't tryna run no game on you. But there's something about you, girl, that you just don't see. I see greatness inside you, girl, that you wanna set free. Now if I told you that you don't need me, would you believe me and take my hand? 'Cause I wanna show you what a friend's supposed to, and be there for you. You don't need a man. You don't need a friend. You just need. And if you need a friend, you don't need a man. You don't need no man. You just need a friend. Baby, I'm your friend. Now what that sound like to ya? Are you gonna give me a chance to bring life to ya? And I know all about them lame dudes that never took time out to even get to know you. So let me tell you what I'm gonna do. Take all your pain away and never disrespect you. From there, girl, I proceed to build you up with the things that I tell you. You know that you're beautiful. You bring peace to this damn world. You're more than a girl, you're a hell of a woman. And I'm the lucky one. You got a body and brain. Smart can take away pain. If you give me a chance, I'll be more than a man. I'll be all of the friend you need. You don't need a man. You don't need a friend. You just need. If you need, and if you need, you don't need a man. You just need a friend. You just need. I've been waiting for you, baby. I'll always be right there by your side. Do you hear me? Are you listening? I swear. When times get rough, I'll be coming. You love that you won't let her go. Me and your girl sound so perfect. I swear. You don't need a man. You just need a friend. You need a friend. Baby, I'm the man. You don't need a man. You just need a friend. And if you need a friend, you don't need a man. You just need a friend. If you need a friend, baby, I'm the man. You don't need a man. I'm your man. You just need a friend. And if you need a friend, baby, I'm your man.
All right. What did you think of that song? I liked it. I was grooving to it.
Yeah, that's okay. I pretend like the first song.
You like the first
First
one?
one, but I thought that was great.
Yep,
Second
that's it.
one, okay.
All right,
Yeah,
you,
it was
I
good.
like both of them.
He's
Cool.
absolutely talented.
Oh yeah, very talented. How are you doing today? I know I got to get ready to do the other show, but I'm just checking in. We couldn't get you into the news show earlier today, but I was actually not engineering that one because
No,
I was
no
actually having
problem.
some other things going on.
I just jump on the computer and if something pings up on Facebook, like I'll go and try and join that, and it doesn't matter.
That's
and
good.
it's quite hard for you. It's quite hard when you come in halfway through a conversation anyway. You know what folk have been talking about, and so you're a bit of a gooseberry. So it's probably just as well that I didn't get back on and stuff. But I would quite like to start doing this stuff more often because it's good that you meet people, and it's something to do with my time because I really struggle. I really struggle with things to do in the company, and I spend all the time on my own. And yeah, so this might give me a bit of company.
Oh, no problem. I understand and all of that. So definitely a great conversation. I'm here to put on some other ads, but if you got anything that you want to share with people, and I'll also give you the link for the other show that I'm going to start in a minute, and it might just be me and you in there for a minute, but if you want to pop in there around 5 or something my time, if you get another 30 or 40 minutes, I can definitely have you come and join me on the Mullins because that might be a short show this time and everything. But any words of encouragement that you want to give people and everything along those lines, we're always glad to have that conversation and everything. But that's the link for the 4 o'clock show, or it's actually going to be more like the 4:30 show and things along those lines. But if you want to pop in there later on, and it might be some other people, it might just be me and you, and it probably won't be as long of a show. But any words of encouragement and positivity that you would like to share with people as we get ready to wrap up this particular edition of the radio show with Mark Lee. And glad to have you come in all the way from the UK.
That's fair, thank you. I think my words of encouragement would just be encourage people to follow their dreams and go with their heart and follow your heart and do what's really important to you and shove what other people think. And other people don't matter, and their opinions for you don't matter. And what matters is making yourself happy, and you got to do whatever it takes. And then when you're in a happy place yourself, then you can be of assistance to other people. So I think that's my word of wisdom for today.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I definitely agree with you in that regard. Nick Palveda is one of our founders, and he's got his pension company. So I'm going to put that spot on, as well as maybe 1 or 2 other spots. And then we're going to get ready to get on out of here. So they'll probably see the airplane and then the in broadcast as we get ready to get on out of here. Actually, they'll see the robot on this particular show and everything. But I might even throw on some more music for you as well, because I do know that we had a guest on not that long ago, and I've still got her music in the system, so I might put that on. Or actually, as I think about it, I think I'll find another one of Marcella's tunes to get us totally out of here. But like I said, it's been a great show, a great conversation, and all of that. So I think I'll put on one more of Marcel Casanova's songs. As a matter of fact, I'm sure I'm going to do that now that I think about it. But right now, let's check out about this lovely ad about something that Nick Palveda, one of our founders, is involved with, and that's his national pension company. So let's check out what this is all about as well.
One of the things that business owners forget a lot is to prepare for their own retirement.
Hi, my name's Nick Pallavita, and today I'm with a very special guest, a certified financial planner, a chartered retirement plan specialist, and president of National Pension Partners, Max Couliet. Max, tell me what you do at National Pension Partners.
Well, Nick, we help successful small businesses and professionals put together retirement plans that provide them the maximum retirement benefits and big tax deductions at the same time.
Well, how do you do this?
Well, we get on an internet conferencing system with the client. We review their goals, what they want to accomplish, and then put together strategies to help them in implementing a retirement plan that benefits them, not everybody else.
Well, that sounds really good, but how much does this cost?
Well, it's really not bad because the first consultation is free. That allows us to go through and discover whether this strategy works for that business and for you as the business owner, and helping you maximize your retirement.
Well, Max, how do we get this free appointment?
It's really pretty simple, Nick. You can either go to our website below or call us at 877-252-1692, and then we can set up a time with either myself, Nick, or one of our other retirement plan specialists, another CPA or advisor in the office, to go over this with you and make sure it fits for you.
Hi, my name is Lewis Haupt. I work with National Pension Partners, and I work with businesses to allow them to put the maximum away that they can for themselves and to save taxes.
Hi, I'm Brad Coyle, and I'm the brokerage manager at National Pension Partners. We're always analyzing plan fund choices in order to ensure the participant's success.
If you want more information on how we can help you and your business put more money away in a retirement plan than you ever thought possible, contact us at the website below or call us at 877-252-1692.
And like I was saying, I'm going to put up Marcel Casanova's song that he had. This one is entitled Country. And then we're going to have the robot to get us on out of here. But this one is entitled Country.
Welcome to Candyland. Ain't no land like Candyland, baby.
Nino, man.
And now, more.
Yeah, I'm country with it like trail riding. It's two-door on that cow hide. Teeth shine like sunshine. 40 cocked on my waistline. Country boy, but I don't smoke hate. Loud sweet in my ashtray. Treat every day like my last day. Treat every day like my last day? I'm country. AC on with the windows down. If you see me, no contenders round. talk of the town, I shut them down. Moonshine and joints rolled. If I'm in the game, then points gold. House parties and drink pole. Pimp talk and Kango. I'm
You hear the country talk, you see the country walk, you smell the country homie. It's 'cause I'm country homie. I'm country, so country. You hear the country talk, you see the country walk, you smell the country homie. It's 'cause I'm country homie. I'm country, so country. It's been a long time coming, but the country, yeah, we own now. Atlanta back to Houston, got them loving every song now. So put your boots on and hold your cup tight. We about to hit the trail right, we gonna party all night. See, the club is overrated, the walls get in the way. They can't shut this hip down, them laws can't make us go away. And ain't no last call for drinks, 'cause I got something in the cooler. Tell the whole world what the country did to you. I'm country. So country.
New Cupid, let's go. So country. That's the way I grew up. Shopping screwed up. What it do, bruh? Shake it for me, baby. Let me see what you're working with. Country women got that work. Yeah, they be popping it. Trail ride girls, high G with some boots on. Mess around with a country girl, you ain't going home. She look good, she cook good. Shawty a beast, when she on that wood.
The king of the trail ride blues. Let's go, let's go, let's go. I said these boots was made for walking. Let me set down my shine and let me start stomping. King of the trail ride, blues in your boots. Line dancing Sonic, no matter what you choose. Hey, catch me in Texas or even in that booth. Singapore horses, wild hogs on the loose. Let's go. I'm long like a dirt road, sweet like sugar cane. You just say country every time you scream my name.
You hear the country talk, you see the country walk, you say the country homie. It's 'cause I'm country homie. I'm country, so country. You hear the country talk, you see the country walk, you smell the country homie. It's 'cause I'm country homie. I'm country, so country.
See, we them cook boys for sure, with a country pedigree. A dangerous combination, we gon' let the world see. We put in work and pay the dues, homie, this right here ain't free. This R&B came naturally, can't deny it's meant to be. We fell so deep in this game, so deep in this game. But we some country boys, so we were born to play. Hey, country from my head to toe, you can tell I hit the lotto. You can tell I'm blocking haters with the by some Gucci fly, Ferragamo walking with a limb. You can tell the way I slide these boots like a pill. It's my country talk, country walk, country swag. My package super heavy, got these girls chasing the bag. In East Texas, cook boy, yes I'm turning heads. In a monster mud truck, pulling ducks, that's what I said. That's my lingo. On the dance floor, by the pound, by the queso. Can you tell by now I'm country? So,
Country talk, you see the country walk, you smell the country homie. It's 'cause I'm country homie.
I'm so country.
I'm so country, yeah, I'm so country.
And now,